Sweet. All right. So, welcome to the Coaching Collective podcast. Today, we are graced in the presence of Leon Pearce from the Physique Collective. Leon is based in the UK. He is an online coach, but most of all, he is a posing coach. So, we thought we'd get him on today, have a little bit of a chat about a bit of everything. We thought we'd talk posing presentation, go into comp prep, and just obviously wherever the rambles and the tangents usually take us on these podcasts. Sometimes we dig rabbit holes and we forget why we're actually here and what we're actually talking about. But if you want, Leon, go ahead, introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
I mean, firstly, I'm appreciative for you to invite me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to be on chatting with you boys.
Pleasure.
Like you said there, I'm a prep coach, online coach, and a posing coach at the same time, and also a competitive bodybuilder myself. So, everything that I'm, coaching people to do, I'm on the exact same journey to get to the similar destinations that most people are doing. I've not been in this industry a very, very long time. I've actually only been bodybuilding for the last 5 years, which is very short in the grand scheme of things when it comes to, being in the industry and in bodybuilding. But I feel like I've been around some good individuals, some really highly regarded individuals, and managed to, be a bit of a and just soak everything up from them as well. So I've just been quite, appreciative to be around the right people at the same time. But yeah, like I say, looking forward to chatting to you boys today and diving into some topics. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, us as well. So, how did you get involved with the Physique Collective as well? Like, we as friends, or?
So obviously it started off, obviously Joe being the main founder of Physique Collective when it first came about in 2021. Um, I was doing my first show, my first timers, and obviously Joe was my coach from the beginning. And it just really came about like I started having some good success early on as a competitor. And then Joe wanted to ask me if I would like to become Physique Collective's first athlete. So they had, when they first started off, they had well, they still do. They have quite a few athletes under them that, will do content for them, for instance, like training footage and post some bits on the members site. So it kind of started off like that. I was their first athlete, and and then at the time I was obviously starting to coach myself and learn a lot myself. And then I just pretty much started having some good success putting guys on stage pretty early on. And then from there, it kind of developed in, they was at a point within the Physique Collective company where they had built it up at a good enough stage where they was going to start onboarding some Physique Collective coaches, alongside them. And I was lucky enough to be one of the picks there, I think, because of the kind of hard work that I'd shown being an athlete and, the results that I'd started getting from my guys and girls. Yeah, I was privileged to ask to be a Physique Collective coach. So that's how it came about, really. And I think Physique Collective in general, anyone that's a coach here at Physique Collective, or anyone that's an athlete, are all within our bubble. We're all, typically friends, and we all get on extremely well. And we have that kind of family and like feel to us.
Yeah.
So it's never really just anyone. You could be a very, very good coach, but are you going to be part of Physique Collective? We don't really know. It's just like that big kind of community we got going on.
Yeah, the dynamic you guys have is really cool as well. Between you guys and, like, for example, pro coach, I think that's kind of what we look at and we think that's where you want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, family feel and quality over quantity, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Like,
It's always the way. I feel like it makes it a little bit better as well when you got a few heads and a few different people to bounce off to. Makes it like a little bit nicer to, I guess, collaborate when you run into problems. Obviously, you've got such a big spectrum, or like you said, bubble of other coaches that if you're having any troubles, I guess you just go to them and they can sort of help you out as well.
I mean,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah,
I think coach in general is a problem-solving game, isn't it? And if you've got many helpers there to give you a hand and guys that have, a little bit higher up in the ladder and a bit more knowledge, it's always handy to have them at a reach.
yeah, and it's one of those things as well. I feel like having that bubble makes it a lot safer for you guys as coaches too, because a lot of people don't really like going externally to ask for help. Like coaches are very much in their own thing, and it's like if I go ask this person to help, it makes me look bad. Like I shouldn't ask that person for help or whatever it may be. So it's sort of, I guess it makes that side of things a little bit better as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people have that kind of like borderline ego where they'll never
Yeah,
ask anyone else because it kind of
yeah,
shows a bit of weakness within their knowledge. But I feel like knowledge is forever changing. You can never know enough things in this industry. We're always, I mean, I learn new things most fucking days, chatting to people and other guys and girls, So I feel like a good coach is always there to further their knowledge and, actually reach out to people that have done this or doing this and just I feel like, what's wrong with asking someone something,
yeah. It's true.
So, question for you as well. Your most recent stint of shows, that was IFBB specific, correct?
So they wasn't. So
Oh,
the
yeah, that's
recent
why
shows
I hesitated. Yeah, go on.
yeah, the recent shows that I did was just a mix of like I would consider lower league British shows. So we
Hmm.
over here we have like a couple of federations like PCA, which you would have heard of.
Yeah,
We
please.
obviously NFM UK. We have a federation called FitX. We have a federation called GBO. So these are the kind of smaller federations, obviously, and then NPC being Two Bros being the top level.
Mhm.
So I initially, within my first couple of seasons of competing, was always of the mindset of I don't quite have the physique to step onto an NPC stage yet. So I wanted to do all of the smaller feds where I feel like my ability and my physique would be better suited to gain a shit ton of stage experience, through plenty of shows, plenty of call outs, plenty of different guys. Um, and that's essentially the mindset I had. I'm continuing to improve my physique to reach that specific level. And
Mm.
it's an expensive journey doing the Two Bro shows as well. So the last thing I want to do is, spend out a shit ton of money, invest a lot of time into it, and then, maybe not get a desired placing or a placing that I think I could, get just from a little bit longer in the game.
Hmm.
So,
Sure.
Yep.
so
So
yeah,
you,
then the shows was essentially, like I say, the smaller federations that I listed then.
yeah. So you, when was your last show? So when was your last competitive season?
What's that? It was not this Christmas, the Christmas before. I was over in Texas,
So 22.
Arlington, Texas.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe coach you for that show?
Yeah, Joe's coached me for every time I've stepped on stage,
Oh, okay.
every single show. So I could say we've definitely got the formula by now.
Yeah,
Speak-
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
one of
yeah,
the
the
better
last
things as well.
show was interesting because, like I say, it was a big. I say a big show. It was a good opportunity to go to a different country and get some kind of overseas, experience in competing. Um,
Yeah.
that's the perks to some of the like smaller feds here in the UK is they also give some good opportunities. Like, winning tickets to international shows, and then there's prize money that you can get from, essentially still being an amateur but earning money on stage, which is
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
something often, we don't really get much apart from, some smiles and a plastic trophy these days to compete.
Hmm.
Um, so that was my initial thought in actually starting prep in the beginning for that season. I wasn't even going to be prepping. I was just going to continue to grow at the time. But I think we did an RFL within like my off season as one of my mini cuts, and I think I
Yeah.
pulled.
I was following along for that too, I think. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
pulled off like 10 kilos in a couple of weeks on this RFL. And then I looked like I was a few weeks out. And then Joe was like, made a joke, what, we should just jump into a show. And then it kind of got in my head. I thought, you know what? Let's fucking do
Okay.
it. So
Yeah.
it kind of shifted from like peak off season to like show season. Like, right, what's the first show that we can do? It's like it's 4 weeks out from now. So it's like literally like a 4 week prep essentially. And I was like,
No
okay,
way.
I'm gonna do a turbo prep. And I was like, I'm gonna show people that I can get peeled in 4 weeks. So it was more so like almost like a business kind of thing, to show people that I can fucking get myself peeled in 4 weeks. What's your excuse for not getting lean in fucking 20 plus weeks? you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And also the opportunity for the first show was another NFM show. And to win the overall, you would win a ticket to compete in Romania. And then there was big prize money. So that was my kind of initial thought. I was like, right, if I can do this, win the overall, go to Romania, that'll be fucking awesome.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, like 4 weeks out, managed to drop off a shit ton. Like the RFL was pretty fucking savage, probably the most savage deficit I've ever done.
Mhm.
Um, like fucking 1,200 calories a day. I was like 15 carb just from trace. And just did that 4 weeks consistently with no refeeds to get peeled. Definitely wouldn't recommend anyone to do that because yeah, it was fucking awful, but got the job done.
Yeah. So just as well, a little bit of a segue before we sort of move on. RFL rapid fat loss model. Do you want to explain that to the guys listening that probably don't know what it is?
Yeah, I mean,
Why
a
you would
rapid
employ it? Yeah.
A rapid fat loss is actually, produced by Lyle McDonald. If you don't know much about an RFL, he has a couple of handbooks on a rapid fat loss, and there's a couple of ways you can kind of do a rapid fat loss. But essentially, in a sense, the way that we ran it was is practically just protein and veg only, and then literally no direct carb, no direct fat. So you essentially just put yourself in a very large deficit via just protein and vegetables. or there is like a liquid RFL that you can do, which is just like protein shake only. But I definitely wouldn't recommend that because you're leaving out a shit ton of
Yeah.
nutrition.
Mm.
So yeah, it's essentially something that's used to, pull off weight in a quick time period. I've heard of a lot of fighters using an RFL, to kind of make their cap or their weight. I've heard of a lot of, just guys in classic physique using an RFL just to hit their cap. It's a good tool to use if you want to pull off a bit of weight in a short period of time,
Yeah.
essentially.
With that rapid fat loss, so how long prior to the show did you run it for?
So we did 1 week of, it was 1 week of like a normal deficit, and then we did one actual week of rapid fat loss. So in total, I was in the RFL for 5 weeks. It was essentially like a 5, 6 week prep in total, but balls to the
No.
wall RFL for 5 weeks.
Mm. Output, how'd you go about that?
Output was literally steps only. So I did 15K steps, obviously a massive deficit, quite a high androgen load, obviously, to try and retain as much skeletal muscle as possible. So I was on like a peak load of 2.5 gram of gear at the time.
Yeah.
Because it was like a shorter period of time, I think you could kind of warrant a higher load because it was only time under exposure was a lot less than a 15, 20 week prep.
Yeah.
So yeah, literally just steps and training. I tried to keep my training volume high as I would in an off season, just to use as an extra tool of expenditure.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, the way I did it is I would wake up like 5 a.m. every morning. I would take my lipitics and whatnot, and I would go on a fasted walk, and I would do 7K steps straight off the bat fasted every morning. And that was just, chewing through the body fat and getting shit off nicely.
Mhm.
Sounds like what I do on my non-training days. Did that today.
Yeah, he's on the
Yeah.
14. He's on the 14. He's 10 days out, so he's on the 14.
I'm on the border of RFL.
Oh shit, you're
Yeah.
close. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
What I do this morning, I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. I woke up at 6. I woke up at 5:50 and I did
Yeah.
9,000 steps.
Yeah.
Cleared me out. But I tell you what, from that night 10,000 steps point onwards, today I've fucking four.
He was meant
Feeling it.
he was meant to be like 7 weeks out,
Mm.
and then I coach him. But then there's a little show next week, and we're just like, fuck it. So I've actually gone low, and we're actually doing fish only. And there was no reason. We just kept joking about it. We're like, fish thins the skin. Jay Cutler says so. And then
That's old.
yeah, and we're just
Like
like, you
fish
know
only.
what?
Just the fuck
Let-
it. Why
yeah,
not?
let's just see if
Gather
there's
some
any
gather
merit.
some data.
Yeah.
See what
Yeah.
happens.
Nothing's
It
happened.
goes
Like
through the fish goes straight through me, like in the sense of like I feel like I haven't eaten when I'm eating it.
Mm.
Like
That's the big downside.
yeah.
yeah,
Just bang,
it's
bang in the semaglutide, man. You'll be sound.
oh,
Yeah.
fuck, if only.
He's natty. He's natty.
I'm natty,
Ah, you're natty.
unfortunately.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No.
I
Yeah.
see.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where I feel like it's like you could utilize it in the right aspect. I feel like the RFL, if the person's willing to push that hard, he's got to be willing to push them
Yeah,
that hard, and they've got to
because it's
be
not for
up
the
for it.
faint-hearted. The
No way.
RFL it's
No
probably like
way.
same as the kind of diet you're on right now. Like fucking fish
Yeah.
only. These are very aggressive, approaches for very specific individuals that can endure that torture because it is torture essentially. You are
Mm.
fucking taking it to a very aggressive level. And yeah, I think sometimes some coaches go wrong with programming this for like just anyone. I've
Mhm.
seen guys that have like tried putting RFL protocols into just some gen pop people, that just
Yeah.
want to
No.
live like that. And it's just not sustainable. There's no way someone's going to keep that going, Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
I had a client come to me. It would have been a couple of months ago now, probably more than a couple of months, but let's just say a couple of months. His previous coach, he wasn't shifting body fat. He had him down to 900 calories at the end. The guy was 85 kilogram accountant in a big firm. And I thought, how did this, whether or not it's right theoretically, it's like, how did this guy think, yeah, this accountant in this big firm, I'm going to put him on less than 1,000 calories because he can't shift weight and see how we go. And because when he was telling me, oh, I don't want to go too low, and I'm thinking, and after he said it like 3 times, like, how low did the cunt put you? And he's like, oh, he had me on 900 calories. And I'm like, all right, it's not even protein. Like his protein would have been 150.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a situation where anyone should be as low as 900 calories.
Yeah.
I feel if things aren't working, spend some time, freshen up, and then go again. Sit at maintenance for a while, do what you need to do. But then there's also like where I've had guys previously in the past where calories have got pretty low in a deficit or a priming phase prior to a push up. And sometimes you have to question whether they're being completely honest with their adherence to, because I've
Mm.
had guys that have been, 16, 1800 calories, say, you know, hour a day of expenditure, saying that they're ticking every single box and that weight's not moving, no visuals are changing, and sometimes even weight's going up. It's like, well, you don't really defy the laws of physics with this one. So you either have to be completely honest, or we have to, have a little look maybe into some blood work and, see if there's something, internally that's going on here.
Mm.
Yeah. Out of that RFL, did you go straight into like when did you go straight into like your peak essentially? Like did you run the RFL into your peak or did you run RFL into just like normal food again and then peak for the show?
So it was literally just, like I say, 5 weeks of RFL and then straight into peak week where we ran 3 days of pro fats, at the start
Hmm.
of peak week for that triglyceride fullness. And then off the back of that, like I say, a couple of days of actual carb load,
Hmm.
which was crazy super compensation from being as flat as Voldemort's nose from the RFL. And then, yeah, essentially from there, it was just scoping out the next shows. And it was like a week of deficit here and then back into peak week fat loading. I think in between the shows, I just stayed on pro fats anyway, because it was like 2 week gaps between most of the
Yeah.
shows. So I
Mm.
just literally went straight back to pro fats the day after I got off the stage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably one of the things that I feel like people have to sort of manage well in between those shows too. It's like, especially when you're doing back-to-back shows, which is what we're going to touch on anyway, doing so many back-to-back shows. And I feel like those run-ins in between a lot of people, it depends how many weeks apart they are, like you said, because you can always pull off a little bit more if you have to. But
Oh,
sometimes is it worth trying to pull off more in between and just sort of seeing what you can do or manipulating the peak a little bit more or
yeah, I mean, it was good because like where we had so many shows like in between, because like the last show was like the main show that I wanted to do, because like I say, the whole prep started because I did that first NFM show. I wanted to
mm,
win the trip. And then I placed like second in the overall. So I was this close. And I was like, right, when's their next show to win another trip? And it was like, right, it's in, 4 or 5 weeks' time. So I was like, fuck, okay, I'm going to do a load of shows in between that, collect a shit ton of data, see which peak methods are working the best, and kind of just use them as trials, really, like mock peaks, essentially doing them shows to then find the best formula for the last show. And that's exactly what we did. Like the free
yeah.
shows that we did in between, we did some slight different things here and there, found the best thing that worked for me, and then the last show we fucking nailed it and won the overall.
Did you ever trial any of those sort of peaks and like fucked any of them up?
No, I don't. I can't really say that we fucked any peaks up before. I feel like there was maybe one or two shows where I might have, overspilled a little bit, just with a carb up. I think like sometimes you can misjudge how much someone needs to fucking eat, and just spilled a little bit, but then not been able to pull off enough fluid to being a little bit watery on stage. But for the majority of peaks, Joe has absolutely nailed.
Mm,
And
yeah, it's
I
one of
think it
those
also
things.
comes with like, it's not just like overspilling it. It can be like stress management. I
Yeah.
find like my cortisol, and my stress plays a huge impact on my physique. And
Mm,
like the last show I did in Texas was a big like experience on that situation itself. I just kind of fucking know there was a lot of stressing going on there, and I ended up looking like a fucking water buffalo by the time I actually got on stage.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I feel like it does. I feel like that stress factor is something that like not a lot of people do take into account. But at the same time, it's hard to say, man. I feel like some people do sort of overdo it with worrying about like how high cortisol is pushing as well.
You see,
Like sometimes it can be a bit of a cop out.
it's not
Mm.
uncommon to see perhaps sort of fall apart in the last few weeks just due to that stress.
Mm.
Or even, I'm not going to say fall apart, I'm going to say stagnate more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen just stagnation. Then you sort of just keep pushing because obviously you're at a point at the back end where like that last 4 weeks, it's like, how am I looking? How am I looking? How am I looking? And then it's
Yeah.
right, orals are coming in, orals are escalating, whatever else you want to do. And you're sort of expecting these rapid changes. But I don't know what your experience is in people that I've observed when they are that high strung individual, you're popping in Stanner and you're thinking, all right, Stanazol's going to give him this like that, that edge. And then you're looking at them like they look the fucking same. But then you sort of take a step back and you're like, this person's wired to the fucking nines. And then yeah, it's just not something it's not
Yeah.
something you can control, unfortunately.
So go sit down, go get a massage, go do something that's
Much as you
gonna
tell them that, yeah.
de-stress you.
Yeah, try and just get guys to chill out as much as possible. I always find, and like,
Yeah.
yeah, just trying to get their peak as stress free as possible. Like, I even sometimes go to the extent, and Joe does the same, like having my clients come and stay with me on peak week. and just being able to manage them and look over them every day, I think also puts them at ease a little bit,
Mhm.
when you're there consistently. But yeah, like I say, just getting people to fucking chill out really is the best way forward.
Yeah, for sure. I
Easier
feel
said
like
than
it's
done sometimes. But then I
yeah, I
find like
know.
it's also like pressure to consider with some guys, when you kind of coach guys that have got also a bit of social following as well. I always find they're the hardest guys to keep calm because they just have that constant pressure, every time they're posting on prep, they're like hundreds of comments of guys saying, "Oh, bro, you've already won, you've already won this
Mm,
show." And then I find like they put a little bit too much pressure on them going into the show. And if they don't get the desired result, it's just like, yeah, it becomes a bit of a fucking dominoes effect from there.
Hmm. One of the more difficult ones I've seen is like sort of similar to what I was touched on before. You start to pull the stress out, and let's say it's an enhanced individual, you start pulling out like your lipolytics. You might pull out the like reduce the trend or whatever, and they're sort of even becoming more stressed because they're like, oh wait, but I'm not progressing, so why are you pulling it out? And it's like you have to reassure them, like, no, 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 like this
it's
is
not why.
this is okay, like this is what you do, and then it just becomes a bit of a yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about reassurance of that back end of a prep for
Mhm.
any individual, though, isn't it? Like, no one's thinking in their right state of mind. People are doing some funny shit at this kind of stage when they're a few weeks out and whatnot. So it's just
Mm,
constant assurance, letting people know they're good. They're going to wake up every morning, look at photos and say, "Oh, I don't like how I look shit." And then, you finally peak them and they've got that layer of tan on and they wake up on show morning and they're like, "Holy shit, I look great." It's just like their emotions are peaking and troughing every
It's
day.
funny. It's funny you say that as well because with this sort of like the protocol that me and Michael are running for this week, I
Mm.
haven't looked at myself in the morning in the mirror once.
Damn, that's brave.
Yeah, I'm trying not. I'm trying my hardest not to because I'm like I don't really want to get into my own head about it. I did a midweek check-in for Michael the other day. I think I sent him videos or footage of me running through my rounds, and I sort of like didn't even really want to look at it.
It's just like
Mm.
that.
I
Just
just sent it.
right, 10-second timer. Yep, good.
Yeah,
Next.
see you later. Because
Yeah.
and it's not so much I'm not someone that really gets into my head because it's like even when like when you're ready, when you're not ready, right? Like it's one of those things where you just got to hope for the best, and it's very much I know like even like from for myself personally, I know when I'm full, like I know the look. It's just more we just have to make sure I guess the water's in the right, not in the
Midsection.
areas it needs to be.
Yeah,
Did
Yeah.
you
yeah.
have a, did you have a hard time backing show onto show with just coping physically and mentally?
What throughout the kind of preps that I did
Yeah.
lastly? Um, no, I found it easier to do them back to back than I would to space them out even more. Because
Mm.
I found like my like adrenaline was still high, my motivation was still super high because I was literally like peaking show day, peak week, show day. So it was quite an easy structure to do that because I felt like I say, it left me less margin for error.
Mhm.
I feel like, when you go a little bit more of a gap, say like 3, 4 weeks in between a show, that's a buffer period where there's time there to potentially overeat. There's time there to potentially, slip away from what you need to do and drop a bit of motivation. So I don't know, I found it easier being
Yeah.
closer together. I
Yeah, for
didn't switch off.
sure.
I was constantly just in that zone, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
when
that
you
is a thing that makes it a little bit easier.
so when you say you're looking to be a classic physique pro, what are we talking the grand prize, the IFBB pro card, or are we talking
Yeah, IFBB Pro
pro?
card, nothing
Yeah.
less on the next time I step on stage, it's going to be NPC shooting for IFBB Pro card only. I'm not going to do any other federations, just focusing on the main prize. And
Mm.
that's why I'm taking extra time out. I feel like, you need time out in a good lengthy off season in order to build a pro worthy physique. And I've got patience here, so I'm just taking as long as I need till I can joke and look at me and say, right, we're ready for the pro card. Let's fucking go.
Mm.
How old are you?
26.
You
Oh,
say
fuck,
more.
you're my age.
Mm. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, far out. You're in the young mate. You got heaps of time as well.
Yeah, you do. It's sort of when you get to like close, I'm 30 this year. When you get to that age, you start to look at it and you think, fuck, is this worth it anymore? Like if you haven't made it, obviously, if I was in the shape that you are, it would be at 29. Like, yeah, fuck it, I'm good to go. But it does become a little bit of a tear, especially when you're sort of starting to look towards, I guess, slowing everything down.
Yeah, I can imagine, to be fair, I can imagine.
Mm,
I've just kind of I've always gone off like my progress within my time frame.
mm,
I feel like I've progressed quite a lot in a short period of time. So I feel
Yeah.
like I could, be pro worthy. It's just where I go from there. Do I get a pro card and just be at that level, or can I then go into the pro ranks? But we won't know until I just fucking keep putting one foot in front of the other and
Mm.
doing what I'm doing.
Do you have
Yeah,
any do you have any specific shows that you like would love to eye off specifically?
What if I got a pro card?
No, so a show in which you'd like, is there any specific shows that you'd love to turn pro at?
Um, I mean, I would love to turn pro in my own country.
Yeah.
Um, it's extremely hard, in my opinion, to get a pro card in the UK. Again, it's like a lot of other countries, you're getting pro cards for like top three placings and overalls.
Mhm.
Where in this country, it's literally just pro card per the class. It's just a lot less opportunity. And I find just like
Yeah, yeah.
everyone knows each other as well, because the UK is not a big place in the grand scheme of things. It's very small, so everyone knows each other, and you know how everyone's looking, you know what the level's like. So I just find that there's some deep lineups in the UK for classic physique. So I would love to win a pro card in my own backyard in a fucking strong lineup of some of the best guys in the country.
Mhm.
That would give me more pleasure, winning a hard lineup than maybe just traveling every single place every other weekend, around the world to try and snag a small weak lineup to get a pro card like
or
some
come
guys do.
or come third place and get a pro card.
Or come third place, yeah, you've
Yeah,
lost, but you've got a pro card. There you go.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah. It is a little bit tough with that as well. But I guess on the premise of being a pro, obviously leads into, I guess, the posing side of things for you as well. So obviously your posing is quite, I'd say it's pro standard.
Appreciate that.
That's
Appreciate that.
right. But in saying that, like, where did you learn a lot of your posing knowledge? Like, did you just gather it from doing your own thing? Is there people that you watched? Is it just from watching bodybuilding? Where'd you gather a lot of that from? Do you have a coach yourself for
I
posing? Like,
mostly coach myself. I worked with one guy who's one of my best friends now and a colleague at Physique Collective, Ryan Brambleby, or Ryan
mhm.
Physique Collective, you might know him as, another classic guy. So on my first ever season, like I say, my posing was pretty shit to start with. So Joe got me in with Ryan just to do a couple of, video calls to touch up on my quarter turns and mandatories. And then I started picking it up pretty quickly after a few calls, and then kind of just went away and just relentlessly practiced like every day, multiple times a day. And I really found that I just loved posing. I just really loved the, presentation side of it. And then I started diving a little bit deeper into it, looking at a lot of old school guys, like the Muhammad Makaways, all of those guys, the Samir Banuts. I was looking at all of these kind of guys and Bob Paris's, and it just inspired me to, become very good at that. And then
Mm.
like the longer I became in this process, I realized that posing is such a big thing, especially if I want to do well in classic physique, I have to be a very good poser. So it's just something that I put on the same level as prioritization as my nutrition, my supplements, my recovery, my training. I put it on there as the same level as all of them, and it improved rapidly.
Yeah, I feel like it's realistically it's like anything, right? It's like training in the gym. The more you practice, practice makes perfect at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, and I do feel like you really do have to get on top of it. Like you said, what's the point of doing this prep or doing all this stuff when you get on stage and you present your package like shit? Like you could have the best genetics on the planet and you can't present your package with posing. Like what the fuck's the point? Like you're just gonna look like an idiot up there. You know what I mean?
I think it's
Mm.
embarrassing when they can't pose.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. How many times have you been to shows and seen guys with crazy fucking rigs,
Mm.
and they are literally posing like they've got cerebral palsy? It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, like just put the effort in. Like I know it's not some people's kind of like game. Some people don't enjoy the posing side of things.
Yeah.
Most of the guys don't even fucking like getting into a thong. Let alone trying to fucking dance around and prance around. But
Mm.
I feel like if you are putting all that effort into a contest prep, putting all of the effort in across the board bodybuilding wise, it really wouldn't hurt you just to put a little bit of effort into your presentation, and it goes a very long way.
And it's not hard. And like I find that there might like to some wouldn't even think of it like this, but I find in prep, it's one of those things where the more you practice prep, like you can even realistically use it as a fat loss tool. Like it's not fucking easy,
Fact.
man.
I literally do. That's exactly what I
Yeah.
do. Just
When you're
long
doing it
round.
properly, hard posing, yeah, like intervals as well. Like you do like 3, 4, 5 rounds, whatever it may be post workout. Like it's fucking hard work.
People will underestimate how hard it is to be posing
Mm,
conditioned.
mm,
Like if you want to see the most posing conditioned guys, watch the Olympia lineup and watch how them guys are holding them poses. I mean, the majority of them. There is some guys that are at the Olympia that can't pose, which is crazy.
I
But
know.
and watch the majority of these guys holding poses for 30 seconds to a minute with ease, without shaking, without moving. And that's the kind of standard that you need to work towards. Like I've had so
Yeah.
many guys come to me for a one-to-one session. It'll be their first ever session posing. And about 5 minutes in, they're absolutely gassed. Like, I didn't fucking realize how hard this shit is.
Yeah.
And that's how
It's one of
people
those.
overlook it because they'll be on the way through a contest prep. They'll get, very close to the show and then just think, oh, I need to do a bit of posing now.
Yeah.
And then they realize that they're just going to be sweating like fuck on stage and just absolutely gassed because they haven't
Yeah.
practiced.
One of the biggest things I find as well is people posing hard when they practice posing, or like when they're, sending like footage of them posing, and it's just like you watch them pose, and it's like, oh, you're really
Mm.
posing that hard. Like the post-workout posing is the one that's probably the best bang for your buck, just because it's like if you can pose hard and you can pose well after you train, you'll
Yeah,
pose absolutely flawlessly on stage. Like there's no doubt.
absolutely. And it also gives you like posing with a pump as well. I always recommend people to pose, post workout because it's more realistic to how you're going to feel on stage,
Yeah.
especially at the back end of a prep. I mean, if you can get a pump that is at the back end of a prep, but trying to be as realistic in that scenario as possible.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's that presentation aspect again. It's just, yeah, it's vital, man. People just, it's just, I don't know how people miss it as well. Because all people, especially when you go enhanced, all people give a fuck about are the drugs.
Mm,
Like that's
yeah,
it. All they
and
care
I feel
about.
like it's like
And drugs can't
presentation
save your
becoming,
presentation.
yeah, presentation's becoming more of a popular thing, I think, these days as well, with guys like Terence Ruffin, guys like Urs Kalsinski, all these guys in classic physique are doing beautiful routines, and I feel like it's bringing bodybuilding back to life. We're even seeing bigger dudes, fucking 300-pound
Yeah.
dudes, hitting some nice choreographed routines. It's great to see, and that's how it should be.
Hmm.
If you look back at the golden era, if you couldn't fucking pose, you wouldn't place. If
Yeah,
you
no
couldn't present,
way.
you can shock the crowd and get the crowd immersed you know, into your performance, you was not going to do well.
But realistically, you should. I don't think you should place if you can't pose. It should. I know
No,
you can't allocate like a larger percentage of the criteria to that, but I've seen some shockers, man. Like, as in the guy gets up there and he's in shape, and you just think, what the fuck is this? Like that can't be. Let's just say that was the person most deserving of the pro card in their physique on the day. I almost think it's embarrassing if they were to win that pro card with poor posing. Like there'd need to be a night and day difference between them and second.
absolutely. I know I've seen firsthand, guys that can present themselves a lot better, have a little bit less of a physique than someone that's a genetic freak in the lineup, and the person that hasn't got as good of a physique but can present himself better and maybe in a little bit better condition, bit smaller, has took the edge. And I feel like a lot of these guys that look really good and can't pose and don't put the effort in kind of need that, to kind of realize that they need to actually put some effort into their presentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
I got a couple of examples in my head when I'm thinking through this as well. Yeah,
so
and
do
even
I.
clients to do the posing as well can be difficult at the same time. Like, yeah, there's certain clients I've sort of harped on to do posing for so long, and you don't get through to them to the point
Mm.
where you're sort of like, well, let's just see how you do. Got a couple of this season. By the time they listen to this, we'll know if they've done well or not. But I've sort of given up in my head, and I've just thought, well, let's just see if they can pull it together like they think they will. Um,
Yeah, I guess it's on you as
That's it.
it's on you as a client at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
And then when you get to stage eventually, and you've tried drilling it into them many times and they may not get their desired place in, and then they look at the judge's feedback and the judge's feedback says work on your presentation. Your condition was great, your musculature was great, but work on your presentation.
mm,
And then that might make them realize, oh, fuck's sake, I should have just done some posing.
Should have just listened.
Yeah. So do you also, we spoke about this a little bit. So obviously you're helping the clients with the posing as well. So you're coaching clients. Do you just help them through that? Like, how do you go about that as well?
I mean, for me, I've got pretty much OCD with my presentation anyway. If I'm ever doing anyone's check-in and they're attempting to hit poses and they're doing it wrong or butchering it, I'm always going to help them every single check-in and say, right, maybe just move this leg here a little bit, maybe move this arm a little bit. Even if it isn't like a posing educational kind of situation there, I'll always help. But,
Mm,
side of that, if we are, within a contest prep or a cross-off season, I'm always helping my guys as much as possible, whether that's, linking up regularly for kind of like one-to-one lookovers when I'm prepping guys.
Mhm.
While I'm there, we'll go through an hour's worth of posing. If we need to link up and do some video calls, I don't really typically charge my guys for that, even though it's a separate service. If it's my guys, I want them to look as best as possible. I have the knowledge to pose them as best as possible. So I'll often, put as much effort into that as possible because I feel like you get invested anyway with a lot of clients. I mean, a lot of my guys that I coach at the moment are competitors, and it's just, journeys that I'm fully invested into. So if I can help them presentation wise as much as I possibly can, that only makes it better for, how they're going to look on stage and also how they look under me as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because typically I get James going over the posing for my clients as well when I feel like they need it. But yeah, it's representation of you. There's instances where I've said to clients, I'll pay for the session, just go do it with that guy. Like I don't care about the $100. I just want you up there representing me as best you can. You know what I mean? And representing yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do go, I think, and if you're any good coaches, do go above and beyond, in them situations. Like you say, even if you have to pay for someone's fucking lesson to go and do it, just to, if I've got someone that's a freak, proper freaky genetics, and they're not going to be putting effort into their posing, or like, oh, I can't really afford it. I'm just like, okay, bro, I'll pay for your session. Just
Mhm.
go and do a session. That's the kind of shit I think you should do.
Mhm. When you said as well, just to jump back a few topics, you said the two bros were expensive. What are we talking for a registration for a two bros show?
I think it's like £250 for a class. Then plus tanning, which is
Yeah.
very expensive, a couple of £100. The photography there is again another couple of £100. And then to get judges' feedback, you actually have to send them the photography. You can't send them photos from just a phone. So you're kind of caught into that one. If you want judges' feedback, you have to pay for the photos.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, coaches wise, we have to pay £150 just to go backstage for a backstage pass,
Yeah.
which is literally from there to there behind the stage. Um, yeah, they're quite expensive shows, to be honest. The NPC shows over in here, they are very expensive.
They're
Your
expensive.
total,
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
some guys are going to do like multiple classes on a day. They're paying over £1,000 for sure.
£1,000. See, for here, what is it? I think one of my boys is registered for three, and it cost him just under 500 AUD. So
Yeah.
he did like a classic juniors, bodybuilding juniors, and a novice class. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and 500 AUD is like £250. So yours is like double that.
yeah, double if not triple.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It's
Even tanning,
crazy,
I
right?
think it's like 150 AED, which is like £80, £90.
Yeah,
That's
that's crazy.
crazy, man.
It's crazy to
And the
think about.
productions as well, the Australian shows look so fucking good as well, production wise. Like over here, majority of the regionals are in like a leisure center, like a small leisure center. So it's not the kind of best venue as well. I mean, I've not been to the venues where you guys are in your Australian shows, but I have watched over the lives when obviously I had Nick on stage
Yeah.
last year. I was up doing the night shift for them shows.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could
Um,
imagine.
Here, like, it depends what state you're in. To be honest with you, Melbourne's where we are, and probably Adelaide, which is just like a smaller city. They're probably smaller venues, like shitter venues, but the
Yeah.
others, like Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, they're nice. They are nice. Yeah, they're big
Yeah,
as
they're
well.
proper like auditoriums.
Auditoriums. Yeah.
They're always the best ones, the big
Mm.
auditorium.
The one in Brisbane's just northern Queensland. That's where Blades.
Slate is.
Yeah, that's huge, like enormous. And if you're on stage, you look like you've got a crowd because it fills up as well because it's quite warm up there. There's a big culture around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a bit surprised by that, man. I just thought the UK was sort of all over it, but like I said, I'll be there to check it
Yeah,
out.
I mean, there's other shows
Um,
and other venues like other pro qualifiers around the UK that might probably do have better venues, but like I say, the main one is not the best. If it's in Maidenhead, the one you're going to, I mean, it's a decent venue, but it's not amazing. Like the kind of money you're paying, you probably want a fucking crazy auditorium, but
yeah.
it
Yeah.
is what it
What's
is,
like
man.
what's
It's the
entry?
only way, to get the pro card in the country.
Mm, yeah,
What just to spectate?
yeah.
I think about £50 for a spectator's ticket. And like I say, if you do want to go backstage, you can get a backstage pass, which is about 150 Great British pounds.
Yeah. The joys. Yeah,
Yeah.
because even like we sort of have a hypothesis or theory that a lot of the bodybuilding scene is going to move into the Middle East.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. It wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me.
because even like the Dubai Pro is quite quite big because we're heading. Well, me and my partner are heading over to that as well.
Yeah, the fucking prize money has been pretty crazy for that, eh? But they've
Mm.
definitely, I mean, got the funding in Dubai for
Oof.
sure. I mean, like the way they're
Yeah.
into sports at the moment, not just, bodybuilding, but also boxing. They seem to be taking over the boxing industry as well.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, they're great atmospheres, great fucking venues. I mean, they've got the fucking funding there and the right people, so why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, because I do notice a lot of the guys from the UK end up moving to Dubai as well, I guess for the
Yeah, I
tax.
mean, not personally my cup of tea, but I
Yeah,
know a lot of guys, yeah, they do like it, tax-free money and all that
yeah.
in
You
Dubai.
you like it over there in the UK?
I mean, I do like it in the UK, but if I was to win the lottery tomorrow, I would definitely not be here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I would probably somewhere, Canada or the States, or even Australia, man. The only thing that would freak me out is the fucking spiders and the critters and the creatures, to be honest, because it's
Nah,
different ballgame.
That's
it's not
overstated.
that bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's the thing that everyone around the world thinks, yeah, it's not that bad, no.
I've seen all the photos of like the fucking spider seasons and shit. Fucking spiders all in the sky and shit.
Uh,
Fuck.
Nah, that
because
wasn't
what there
legit.
is, if you go to Northern Australia, like the outback, there's heaps of
Yeah,
that stuff, but it's not very populated. Like if you live here, you live like, well, the best spot is where Blade is, like the Gold Coast in Queensland. That's like it's hot, but it's hot and tropical, but like it's not. You still have a winter. But if
yeah.
you go further north, you don't get winter.
I see. I
Like
see.
it's 30 degrees is winter.
All the time.
Yeah.
You've got like fuck all to worry about, like animal wise. Like we don't really have anything that's poisonous. I mean, the only thing we'd have to worry about in London is getting shanked by some little kid.
Yeah.
Um, that's a bit more dangerous. That's about it.
Yes. So have you've always lived there, obviously.
Yeah, I've lived here my whole life, man. Lived here my whole life.
Yeah. What age did you start training and whatnot as well?
Uh, well, it would have been. I mean, I've trained for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
before bodybuilding, I was a amateur boxer, so I boxed a lot of my childhood. And then I went from amateur boxing to professional K1 kickboxing.
Mm.
So I did that prior to starting bodybuilding. So it wasn't as if like I'd never trained. I'd always done like a lot of strength and conditioning training for the majority of my childhood and teenage years.
Mm.
And then, like I say, it wasn't until like 5 years ago, just over 5 years, that I started bodybuilding, actually went into a gym with the intention of building muscle.
Mhm.
So I had like quite a decent baseline. I was a very small, skinny guy. I was 66 kilos wet, but I was always like fairly lean.
Yeah.
Had a muscle there purely just from doing sports over a long time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Mhm.
a different starting bodybuilding for sure.
Yeah, because I do feel like with COVID as well, the COVID did destroy the bodybuilding scene for a little while here. And I actually just got off the phone with one of my the returning clients just before we recorded. That's why we were that 5 minutes late, by the way. Um, she and I was running through to her now that what's happened here, especially with the natural shows,
Mm.
because everything was shut down for so long. Last year was the first year they got momentum again, and now they've just like this year they've just filled the calendars, man. Because she said to me, "Oh, there's a show in North Queensland I want to do," and I'm like. Who does a show in North
North
Queensland? North
Queensland, yeah.
Queensland, no one lives in North Queensland, yeah. And then she's like, "Do you think it'll be big?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't see how."
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing is now it's becoming so popular that they're just, I guess, overcapitalizing as well.
Mm.
Which is a good thing because it gives us more shows, but then you end up with
I
these.
was just about to say that, I think
Yeah.
like it's crazy like how big Australia is, but how little bodybuilding shows you have,
Yeah.
compared to other countries.
Mhm.
So I feel like that should be an added bonus, right? Any other shows should be welcomed, right?
Yeah, but again, there is a history here of like them, especially in the natural feds. They run a lot of shows, and 70 to 80% of them end up being quite small. So you get this athlete, what I don't like as a coach, you get this athlete ready for this show, and there's four people in their class. And then
Yeah,
yeah, and then they
yeah,
don't want to go on because not because they didn't enjoy the experience, because they typically enjoy the small shows because they're less pressure, but because they just don't want to go on because they're burnt out or they had their fun or they're like, oh, I just want to get into the off season. And then suddenly it's like, well, fuck, you didn't even get a real experience because we missed out on that big show you're meant to do 2 weeks later. So typically now with first timers, I try to just pop them in the bigger show first because I just think at least then if they don't continue, they've
yeah.
had the real experience. And obviously they
A
don't get
real experience, and yeah, actual stage time,
yeah.
with some competitors, which is more valuable than anything early on, I think.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse, is there, than, either prepping yourself or, prepping guys and then turn up on stage and they're like the only one in the class. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
you win and you lose by default. It's like, okay.
Mm.
Looks good with the medal. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's like, with the usual guys, they'll post on socials after, first in a stacked lineup.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, the only one on stage. Come on.
I've seen that, but last year I had a guy saying placed first in pretty much that. And there was two people in his class. There was
Yeah,
someone
yeah, yeah.
like, bro, like people were there, like they saw it. Like it wasn't like it was a quiet show, it was just no one registered like out of 25s, I think it was.
Yeah, it was
We
like
had a crazy story over here actually, which actually made it, Goob on Instagram.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he called this guy out. So they had an Eastern European guy come here to do a PCA show. And I think it was like PCA Universe, which was one of the larger shows. He did this show. I think he placed like fifth in his lineup. And then he photoshopped a first place trophy in his hand when he came outside of the venue and posted it like first place in a great stacked lineup. And then, yeah, quickly some people see the photos and that was there. And Cotton Onto was like, this guy didn't place fucking first. I think that the guy that coached the guy that placed first then obviously flagged it up and put it on, on his stories and shit. I was like, that is crazy, moving absolutely crazy.
Why would you
I
But,
take that risk? I remember my last show, there was one of my shows that I did in 2022. I came fifth, right? And I posted on my story, and I posted my story, and I did my first post holding my fifth place medal, and I said, fifth place today, bring it all back together next week. And then like my next story was there was only 5 people that competed in the show.
yeah. He got rolled. He did bodybuilding.
Fifth out of 5. And I was like,
Yeah.
still came fifth though.
That's it. Yeah, still got a fifth place.
So
Yeah.
I have the fifth place medal. No one else does. So
Did
Yeah,
you?
there's one
I
more
placed,
person. There was
my
one
last
more.
show, I placed outside the top 5. That's the only time I've ever not placed, which
Yeah.
was fucking kick in the teeth in Texas.
Mm.
But yeah, I was so
Still
used to
good.
getting
Was that because of your, like you said before, the peak wasn't as that good for the Texas
Yeah,
show?
so I'll
Or was
give
the
you the main
lineup really
rundown.
good?
I'll give you the main rundown because like I was a GBO pro with this like NFM they worked with some people called GBO, which was like their main sponsorships, and they gave out pro cards within their federation, like how PCA have PCA pros, etc. So I'm a pro in this federation. So the show in Texas, the amateur show went on throughout the day. Pro show didn't start till the evening, like 6, 7 p.m. So basically the day before when we got tanned up as our base coat, woke up after getting the tan done at like 3 a.m. in the morning on show morning, looked in the mirror and I was just green, patchy, sweating it all off.
Oh,
So they
shit.
had essentially, we worked out they tanned us with gone off tan. So the tan was
Mm.
fucked. So me being so pale, it kind of fucks me royally because my tan has to be so on point. If it's slightly off, the whole physique looks fucked. So I obviously stressed throughout the day. We had no backup tan there. We had nothing we could really do. They went and tried patching it up, but it just got worse and worse. So then, like I say, I spent the whole day with this shit tan looking depressed because it ruined the whole look. And then I
Yeah.
just got worse throughout the whole day. Then the stress got the better of me. And by the time I actually stepped on stage, I just looked like a water buffalo Shrek, just like melting on stage under the lights. Fuck. The good thing was we was in the States and we had some fucking crazy food after the
You
show.
had
But
some nice Texan barbecue.
Brisket.
yeah, I think it was good, like to almost humble me as well, because like I say, I had done like I've been on stage over 10 times before that, and I had either placed first or second in every other show that I've ever done. So
Yeah.
it was the first show where I've, like I say, not placed, and it's also just made me work harder after
Mm.
that show
Yeah, because
because
you're like, I don't want this to happen again.
yeah, I don't ever want to see third call out again. So, just try and work harder. And hence why I'm taking even longer out away from the stage to just, pay my dues essentially.
Hmm.
Did you? I'm going to jump back a topic again. Did you know the UK and Australia are the only two countries in the world where you have to qualify within your country in the NPC/IFBB to then compete overseas?
Yeah, I did know that. I did know
Yeah.
that. It's crazy,
They
right?
they try to pitch it here like they did it to benefit us. And it's like, oh, come
They
on.
do the same here, bro. They do the same here.
Oh, because we had like the workshop the other week, and he's like, "Oh, it's just such a great opportunity that you have to qualify here amongst your people." And it's like, you do it so you can make more money, mate. Like, come on.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, just
Yeah,
literally making money. But
yeah. Because I think the only other restriction was in like Southeast Asia. If you're like Malaysia or Indonesia, you can only qualify amongst those countries, but you still get like 4 or 5 countries to pick from. Um, as opposed to yeah, because it's just us in the UK. Because my girlfriend's competing in Spain, like I mentioned, and we just had to work out the intricacies of it. But in an ideal world, she wouldn't be competing here now. She'd just be waiting for the Spain show. But we had to pick something. So yeah,
uh,
she's happy to do it in front of her family though.
yeah, well, I mean, I know over here, like I say, we can do a regional in this country and then go, anywhere abroad or most places abroad and do a
Yeah,
pro qualifier.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it just has to be a regional in this country.
yeah. That's yeah. Because now,
Again, it's just, isn't it? It's all a money-making scheme when it comes to, companies and bodybuilding. It's just trying to funnel as much money and profit as they can. Same as most businesses, right? They're all in it for
oh,
the
it
fucking
is.
time.
Yeah, it's not like people. It's not gonna. I just don't see it like it's gonna deter people from like competing here. Like I just think it's stupid to say you have to because people are still going to do it. People would 90% of people would rather, I think, compete in front of their friends, their family, their athletes, their clients in our situation. Like I'd love to do a show, my next show here, as impractical as it is, because I'd love to do that in front of my clients. But not
Mm.
because I need people to gas me up and I need to have the ego boost. It's just because I think it would be nice for them to say, like, oh fuck, look at him up there doing what he's telling me to do. Do you know what I mean? But if it wasn't for
Sure.
that, I don't give a fuck where I compete, you know?
Exactly. Every stage is the same, just in a different place. Essentially, when you think about it, you're doing the same shit.
Yeah. But I do because the reason I raised that as well is because I was actually going to bring this up with James today, and I didn't. I do know some people that will refuse to compete outside of their state. It's like, no, I have to turn pro here, and I know for a fact that they have to do it here because they need their ego stroked here, and they know it's not going to get stroked overseas. Yeah, and
For sure.
even
But then
yeah,
some people well overestimate like overseas shows. Like when like there's a lot of guys here typically will go to Spain. They do an amateur in Spain.
Amateur, yeah.
But they don't realize when they're a classic physique guy and they go in there and then they look at the amount of people in their class. There's like 50 fucking guys in each class of classic physique.
yeah.
And these are deep motherfucking lineups. These are some crazy, crazy physique. So typically, it's not always a perk going abroad to compete. Some
Yeah,
people
well,
work out a lot worse for you than actually better.
yeah. That's
Unless
why
you've
I
got
was asking about Texas before, because I was going to say, was it like majorly a peaking issue, or was it just like you got there and you realized that like the caliber of athlete is a lot better over in the States?
I mean, the caliber was also very good. I think even if I was on 100%, I still don't think I would have made, top five.
Yeah.
Because there was 20 something guys in my class. The guys that were actually top four, so first place down to fourth place, were natural guys as well. And they had won, there was a natural championship that they had for that federation the week before. So I'd seen all of these guys, but these are just like African American guys, crazy bubbly genetics, very nice physiques. And yeah, they came in peeled like that natural trademark conditioning with the bubbliness. I was like, holy shit, like these guys are fucking good. There was only one of our guys that actually placed in the top five, and that was Elliot, his name is Elliot Robinson, who's a classic physique guy in the UK, and he looked great. So yeah, I think even if I was 100%, I was just too small at the time to be placing in that kind of caliber.
Yeah.
No, there was a guy that actually won Classic Physique a couple of seasons ago here. He was natural, African American. Um, and
Iman, his name.
yeah, and his coach got a huge influx of inquiries and he gave me a call. He's like, "Hey, bro, can you just give me some resources for about the PED stuff?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, why?" He's like, "I've gotten like 20 inquiries in the last couple of days since he won the pro card." And he's like, "And I've never coached an enhanced guy in my life." Yeah. And I actually said to him, "Bro, I think you should probably just tell these people that you can't do it." I don't know what he did with that that feedback, but yeah, because
Was
he's
that was that last season? Was that
uh
last?
nah, might have been. I was in Sydney at the time. When was I in Sydney, James?
It
In
might have
season
been.
A,
It might have
2023.
been season A. So it would have been like
April
the
last year.
April.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy last season that was obviously Nick's show, his last show that when he came, I think it was like he was in the overall. It was an African American dude that won that and got the pro card. Fucking tiny waist, great vacuum.
It would have been him.
Yeah,
He turned pro. He turned pro. Yeah, a
it
year
was this
ago.
time last year, correct?
What
Yeah,
was his name? Did you say?
Iman.
Iman. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that's who. Yeah, who Nick was in the
Yeah,
over. Yeah, yeah, crazy physique. He's natural.
Yeah, it's natural.
yeah, man.
Fucking hell, bro.
Yeah, it's
Natural.
crazy, eh? Yeah, I didn't believe him either. But when his coach Tim called me and said that, I was like, well, fuck. See, I've known him. I've known his coach for years. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, it sounds pretty genuine to me, man.
I mean, I sound shocked, but then I also have natural guys, that I coach that are fucking ridiculous physique. So I feel like natural bodybuilding's really evolving lately. I feel like we're just with the pure access, to just training, educational, the amount of educational stuff I think is just everyone's evolving,
Yeah.
enhanced guys, natural guys. You're just seeing some crazy good young guys coming up through the ranks.
Mm. Yeah, the naturals sometimes surprise me. You can't really trust the naturals sometimes in the natural feds because I remember when James placed fifth in that lineup that he mentioned, the top two guys were previously enhanced and they'd just been natural for X amount of years.
Yeah. I know
Yes.
there is a certain time frame where you have to be natural for, don't you? I think if you was enhanced, like 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Even then, man, you could get away with it.
There's so many guys that are natural and they just know how to play the game. There's been many occasions in the UK of, strictly natural shows where people have been caught out. People have failed tests. People have been caught out after the show. It's always going to happen. There's always going to be someone trying to cheat.
Mhm. Which makes no sense, man, because where's the accomplishment in that? Because realistically, you do this for yourself. I think you do. Yeah. Um,
Anyone that tries to cheat a natural federation, if they're, drugged up to the gills and trying to turn up to, compete against guys that aren't, they're just straight bottom line scumbags.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's sort of like, what's the point?
No, there
It's
is no
literally
point.
like
It's just
it's literally just stroke your ego. Like,
And what if
facts.
what if you lose?
Yeah, yeah, literally
Yeah.
destroy.
I think
But
that would kill me more. I think it would be like it would kill me more to think like I could jump be on everything under the sun here and lose to some natty guy. I can't deal with that mentally. That would be enough for me to be like, I'm not doing that. Let
yeah,
alone
it's
the
true.
fact that it's morally wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, fuck.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I
People
don't
are
feel
just
it, I
fucking
guess. Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, is what it is. Each their own. That's what it is at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah, fucking oath. Well, thanks for jumping on with us, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's been a
I reckon that one.
pleasure, man.
got into some like nice raw shit at the end, which was cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
awesome, bro. Well, yeah,
It's good, like when you start chatting, it just goes different directions, isn't it? You just take the whole
Yeah,
thing.
and you jump back and forth between shit you spoke about 40 minutes ago, and
Yeah,
just falls into a
yeah,
um
we always find like once you sort of because when we get a new person on, like you sort of break the ice at the start, and then once you break through, it's like fuck, and like this is cool. You know what I mean? Yeah.
we'll have to get Joe on next on the
I
podcast.
tried. He's a hard man to get booked in a long time ago.
He will move. Try him again. Try him
I will
again.
definitely try him again.
If you sign up with him, I'm sure he'll jump on. I'm sure he'll
Yeah,
jump on.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. Yeah. Oh, he did say to me he would do it, but it was more because I realized how busy he was, and I'm like, I don't want to bother.
just
Right?
don't want to bother him,
Yeah.
follow him up all the time.
But I think it was in the middle of when he was traveling with Corey.
Yeah, he was fucking all over the place when he was traveling with Corey, man. The
Yeah.
guy did just like constantly flights and
Hmm.
show days, flights and show days. That was a savage time for Joe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, thanks, man.
Man, thanks for coming on.
Enjoy your day.
Appreciate it.
Good. Sweet.